Behind me here is a boat I am super excited to show you. This is the all-new Bluegame flagship, the BGX83, and it is quite simply one of the coolest boats I've seen. So let's get cracking and I'll show you all around it. My name's Hugo Andreae, you're watching Motorboat and Yachting. Let's start down here just so you can get some idea of the scale of the thing. It's an absolute beast of a boat. You can see it's got these great big flared top sides, protruding anchor out the front, really slender, deep V right at the bow area. You can see the back thruster there. And that's one of the nice things about seeing the boats inside at Düsseldorf. You get to look underneath them too. So you can see the V gradually shallows out as it comes towards the stern. And then you can see some of the stern gear itself. Now this is the very latest Sleipner curved fin stabilizer. It is an electric version of their hydraulic ones, but you can see how the shape of that, by wiggling up and down, that stops it rocking forwards and backwards. And because it curves out like that, you get much more efficient stabilizing action. You also get a certain amount of lift, so sometimes you actually find that it's more efficient with the stabilizers than without them. And then this is a great view of the IPS pod. So it's powered by triple Volvo Penta IPS drives. And you can see how they slot in here. They are forward-facing pod drives. Those whole pods will swivel, well, the two outer ones will swivel, and that's what provides the steering. So there's no need for any rudder. It is vectoring the thrust of those pods. And having the twin counter-rotating propellers and no shaft and forward-facing, so they're running in clean water, it is much more efficient than a standard shaft drive. So number of benefits. It's efficient, it's faster, it uses less fuel, it's quieter, and it puts all the engines a long way back and very low. So rather than having a long shaft and having the engines in the middle of the boat, the engines are right in front of the pods, and that means more space for accommodation. We'll take a quick look at the stern while we're here, and that's to show you the hydraulic platform. You can see that section there drops down into the sea. You can use that for a tender or just so that you can drop directly into the sea yourself, better than a bathing ladder. Here's a quick look at the stats. I won't bother to read them out. You can freeze the video if you want to look at those in more detail. The Beach Club has always been at the core of Bluegame, and you can see that straight away here on the new BGX83. Check out this carbon fiber shower right at the back here, and look at the sheer amount of space. Now, the reason they have quite so much space, partly it's a style thing, partly it's because you can fit an enormous tender here. You can have a 4.5 meter tender that stores in here. And cleverly, the crane is actually built into that side bulwark there. So that section there is in fact a crane that will carry 800 kilograms. Now, the other big change is that they've managed to get a folding platform. Now, sadly, we can't show you that here because there is too much structure, but that whole bulwark there folds flat, and then you get an enormous extension that's all at the same level. It's 7.5 meters wide with that down. So you do get this fabulous space. But what the owners love about this is that it's just such a versatile area. So you can use it as a massive party platform. If you're on the dock, you can get the speakers out, you can have a full dance floor, you can fill it up with freestanding furniture and sunbeds. Obviously, you can use it for tenders and not just one tender, you could have several. It's all about versatility and flexibility. And of course, particularly with that platform down, you get a magnificent connection with the sea. In fact, the only thing that is not at the same level is this little unit here, which is obviously a key part of the docking gear. But you've got your winches, your cleats, your fair leads. This section here is in fact a hydraulic platform, but it's not full width. It's just this section here. So if you want a smaller tender that you can just drop down using the platform, you can do that too. That section there is fixed, so you always have access to and from this beach club area. Now, the other great thing about these BGXs is the way that they flow through the rest of the boat. So you can see on the right-hand side here, we've got steps up, but this is the really unique feature. It's the lower lounge. And you can see that They've got glass sliding doors. They're sort of angled doors that slide across, so that obviously seals up. If you're in any kind of rough weather, you can completely seal the yacht. But then when you get to the lovely bay, you open it up, and then you've got this fantastic connection with this lower lounge. And just check this out, because really where we're standing here is probably at sea level or possibly even slightly below. Now you can't really see out through here because of the way they've done it, but that is a great big window. It's a particular thing of San Lorenzo's boss Max Perotti, that he likes these sort of invisible windows, and we've seen that from outside, but when it's actually bright outside you wouldn't notice that white printing on it, you just get a lovely view. And the way this whole thing flows into the beach club, and then you've got this really cool inside lower lounge. We've got a drinks cupboard over here. This particular boat has the full Lissoni interior, which has lots of fancy kit. But look, there is a little wine cooler tucked inside that beautiful fluted circular bar. Another big window there, cool sort of tub chair. And then there is connection from here too, so you can go up into the upper saloon from here or through into the owner's cabin. We're going to do that because I just want to show you how this whole area connects together. Big TV in that bulkhead there, it's sort of mirrored at the moment, but there is a TV in there. And then through into the owner's cabin. And the great thing about this is, of course, if you're waking up in the morning, you have that access both to the lower lounge and that beach club area. So you sort of naturally flow through, then this whole space becomes like a private apartment for the owner. Now that beam does mean that there is enough room for the bed to run a thwartship, so that's the side of the boat there, but there is plenty of space all the way around the bed. And then it's called a full beam cabin. It shares that beam with the bathroom, so it's not quite as big and spacious as you might get on a conventional 80-footer. But then this boat is not about raw volume, it's about style, it's about that walk around sort of adventure feel. We've got a TV in the bulkhead here, and then this is the kind of wardrobe area. This will slide, sort of shut out. You can see there is a sliding glass panel there. Not sure it's necessarily needed, but it just gives a little bit of separation, but still lets the light through into the cabin. So you've got a hanging wardrobe there, lots of very stylish storage here for your shirts and socks and so on, and then through into the bathroom area. There is another sliding door here. I think it's locked at the moment, but that is a door that will slide out, so that can be kept completely private when you want to. That's because you've got a loo in here and another door on there. More of these sort of printed windows, they would be clear if it's nice and bright outside. Beautiful sort of green marble sink there, and then shower through here. Not the biggest shower I've ever seen on an 80-footer, but plenty big enough for its core purpose. Right, we're going to go back through the yacht and go outside now, but I just wanted to show you how this area linked with the beach club, because that's going to be very special when you wake up in the morning. You've got all this to yourself. You can go straight outside, plunge into the water and have a swim. Now we're going to go up the stairs on the outside. We'll talk a little bit about what's under here, because one of the reasons they've got so much space in the hull is that the engines are actually under this deck here, and I'll show you those in a minute. But external stairs up to the raised cockpit. Now I rather like what they've done here. So this section here, if you look, is in fact just an overhang, so there's no depth to that. But by decking it, they have made it a much more usable area. They've kind of integrated it into the leisure part of the boat rather than just a big blank GRP moulding. They've put teak on it so you can put some cushions out on there or bean bags and lay on that deck there. And then you've got an integrated dining area here. There are lots of different places you can sit outside and eat. And again, that's very much part of the whole BGX vibe, is masses of outdoor space, lots of flexibility or versatility, how you use it. I should also point out that there is a wet bar in this raised cockpit area. So under this teak cover here, we lift that up, and again we have got a full wet bar out here with a grill, sink, fridge and ice maker. So very nice to be able to do all your cooking outside next to the table if you want to. Very smart little oval dining table here. Big overhang here too, so you've got plenty of shade in this area here, very nicely protected. And the other key thing is, of course, the walk-around decks. Luca Santella, the designer, says he doesn't think he could even design a boat without walk-around decks anymore. And look at the size of these. Really big, tall, protected bulwarks there. That is in fact open. I thought that might be glass, but you can put your hand through there, and that's because you've got cleats down there, so you've got mid cleats. But look how tall this is. I mean, this is above waist height for me, so feels really nice and secure. Really good wide decks, teak everywhere. But look at this. This is probably my favorite area on the boat. And just look at the space there is available on here. Clearly we've got the sun awning rigged up here on carbon fiber poles. That all packs away, but look how much space there is. And I love the way that this can be used for dining or lounging or chatting. You've got all the options. So this seat here is really deep. I might just show you. So you can totally chill out on this. Two big dining tables here, one on each side. They are on high-low support, so they can all drop down too. You can have an even bigger sun pad, but even with them in place, you still get plenty of room. These are just weighted backrests, so those can be moved forward or back wherever you want to. Teak absolutely everywhere, even on these arm supports. Got a little place for your drink to go in there. Flush fit cleats pop up. And then as you move forward to what would normally be a sort of working area, even here they've managed to hide away all of the kit. So it's still very much a usable space. There's nothing that you're going to stub your toes on. The anchor locker and everything is in fact under here. They are immensely heavy. I'm not even sure I can do it one-handed, but there you go. You can see that is where the anchor winch, the capstan, the cleats, the fair leads. Just look at the thickness of that moulding. You can see why I'm struggling to do that one-handed. It is immensely heavy. And then to put it down, you have to get your hand under here because you don't want that getting trapped. But that opens up too. You've got an anchor locker underfoot, so you can access all the chain. And just worth pointing out, those two little windows there, that's just ventilation for the crew's bathrooms down below. So lets in a bit of light, bit of natural ventilation. Let's take a look at the Flybridge. We've got these kind of floating stairs that run up here. We've got powder-coated black stainless steel rails. Well, not stainless steel, black powder-coated steel rails. That is all very much part of the look. You'll notice there is no polished stainless around here. It's all that more modern matte black finish. Now, this is the first Bluegame with a really big Flybridge, but once again, they just like to do things a bit differently. So rather than lots of molded furniture, they've kept it largely very open. You can see the whole thing is surrounded by glass, so you get the best possible views. And then this modular furniture unit in here. Big high-low table, so that can drop down. That can all be one huge sunbed area, or you can use it for dining like this. The backrests all move about, so you can see those can be shifted. They're weighted so that they stay where you put them. Even the helm bench is part of that single central furniture. Pod-style helm station. Once again, rather than just going for the ordinary molded in, they've gone for this sort of floating table-like helm station. It's got all the same kit in it, but it just looks a little lighter, a little fresher. Obviously plenty of room for your feet under there. All the usual Bluegame styling features. The big 3-spoke stainless steel wheel. Repeat of the normal Volvo Penta IPS drives. Access to everything you need on the boat, so you can switch everything on and off from here. That's just the lights, for instance, all the crew cabins, but you can check out the levels, the pumps, what the curtains are doing, external lights, internal lights, bilge pumps, all accessed from here. This little corner unit here, this is in fact a fridge. If I lift that up, you can see we've got a chilled locker in there, so you don't have to run downstairs to grab yourself a cold beer. More of that lovely teak decking. This has the sun awning rigged. Again, demountable carbon fibre poles. They are looking at doing an optional hardtop. I think there are some markets that will demand a hardtop, so they are going to look at that. But for the mainstream, they just want to keep it as low and open and stylish as possible. Even the windscreen here, you'll notice how low that is. Obviously, they could put a taller screen and then you'd have a better protected helm station, but that's not how they want to do it. If you're going to drive from upstairs, you want the wind in the hair. They've kept that very low. It's all about stylish looks. And then at the stern end here, a couple of freestanding teak sun loungers. So obviously you can put whatever you want here, but that looks like a pretty cool setup up on the Flybridge. Then moving through into the upper saloon. Now, because of those side decks, it's not as wide as you might find on a typical 80-foot Flybridge. Again, that's a sacrifice that Bluegame are quite happy to make. But what they lack in sheer volume, they more than make up for in style. This has the Lissoni interior, which is, I'm told it's about a £300,000 option. And that's where you get these really fancy freestanding sofas, a rather cool bar area. The standard layout is a little bit more run-of-the-mill. It sounds wrong, but you do get more sort of molded in furniture. So I think the standard layout, you would have a dining table here with a more of a sort of molded dinette area and a high-low table so that you can eat inside or outside. On this version, it's much more just about chilling out, relaxing. Floor-to-ceiling windows on both sides. This is a rather neat little feature. Now, you've got all those big glass windows around, but you've also got blinds on all of them. So if I twist one of these, you can see all the blinds start to lower down, all in unison, really quietly, really quickly. Job done. Another thing they do a lot of is they put these wooden deck heads in, so it really does feel very special. You've got wood underneath, wood overhead, full height windows. There's even a blind above the staircase here. So this is the internal staircase from the lower saloon, but I love the fact that they put glass in here. We've got floating stairs, so you get plenty of light, even in places like this. Now, there are various different options as to where you site the galley on this boat. This is the galley up layout, but it's the Lissoni one, which is arguably a little bit more style over function, but you have this very cool slender bar area here, 3 little freestanding stools, and everything is sort of hidden away. So if you open it up, you can see there is a certain amount of storage in there. Obviously that is a bit thin for actually preparing food, but very nice to sit at and use as a cocktail bar. And then this is the main galley area. We've got a fridge behind there, a freezer underneath, cooking area here, Miele induction hob with one of these cool inbuilt, what's the word? Ventilators, not right, but it's basically a vacuum that sucks all your cooking smells down and out of the boat. Oven under there, all this lovely veined marble here. I have to say, this is one of the things that I can barely lift that. It is so heavy. And that's where sometimes I think the style overcomes function a little bit. That is almost too heavy to lift with one finger that you can put through there. And then where do you put that when you've lifted it out? Because it really is a mammoth piece of marble, but it is the real deal. It looks super cool. But there is a sink under there and obviously lots more storage wherever you need it. But the alternative is to have a professional galley down when it's a fully crewed yacht. So I'll show you what that will look like in a minute. Now this is the helm area. There's an inside helm and an outside helm. This is another absolute signature design of Bluegame's, a carbon fibre wraparound helm bench. And that is the real deal. It is very light, very stiff. Just part of that kind of signature Bluegame styling. That, and of course, the big stainless steel wheel that you get on every Bluegame. Indoor helm station, quite simple, quite clean. This is an IPS drive boat, has triple IPS pods. You still only get the 2 throttles and the joystick. You don't need a third throttle. It effectively acts as a slave to the other 2 even. 3 integrated Garmin screens, that very stylish reverse angle windscreen. I have to say it is a little bit narrow. I think one of the things they might do is actually knock that back a little bit, because when you're standing it does just feel a little bit too low, but when you're sitting down it's absolutely perfect. Doesn't get too hot, I'm told, because of that reverse angle screen, so you don't get direct sunlight in here. This doesn't open. I thought it might be a sunroof. It's not, in fact, but you have got an opening door over on this side. And then curving staircase down to the guest accommodation. So when you come down the curved staircase, you can go forward to the crew area or aft to the guest area. So here we have 2 identical doubles. They call them VIPs really, and they are pretty much large enough for that. You can see that there's wide enough beam to be able to have the bed running across the beam of the boat rather than fore and aft. There's plenty of foot space all the way around it. There's a relatively small hull window up there, but you can see it is classic sort of San Lorenzo style, really chunky stainless steel. It will open up. King size bed, wood overhead and underfoot. Hanging wardrobe, very smartly done. Integrated lights. Ensuite bathroom. Hinge door rather than a pocket door. Good sized window in here, again, one that opens up. More of that lovely marble. Not the largest shower I've ever seen again, but plenty of headroom. Has got a rain shower style head. Maybe not enough to swing a cat, but certainly enough to wash yourself. TV on the bulkhead. And exactly the same on the other side. Mirror image. This is on the starboard side, so you can see the window up above the bed there. Same layout, same bathroom. So if you go for the galley down layout, then this area here becomes a professional crewed galley, and you do lose some of the space. So this is the 4th cabin effectively, because we've got the owner's cabin, those 2 VIPs, and then a twin bunk here. This has access to a bathroom on the other side. This doubles as a day head. So you've got full shower facilities. It's not just a day head. You have got a walk-in shower too, so it acts as a bathroom for that cabin over there. Obviously, if you go for the galley down layout, then you lose this cabin and this whole area becomes crew effectively. So you have a sliding pocket door here too. In this version, this is where you transition from guest areas to crew. There's a small little mess area here. We've got washer dryer on that side, and then 2 crew cabins forward. This is just a single bunk, but crucially does have its own ensuite bathroom. And pretty much the same, but on this side we have a double bunk, again with its own ensuite bathroom. I mentioned earlier that the engines are under this beach club area, and you can see that straight away. There are 3 huge hatches running across the cockpit here. Each of them are big enough to be able to lift the engine in and out should you ever need to replace them. But for quicker daily access, you have 2 smaller hatches, one here, one further back towards the stern there. You can just see it in the corner there. And let's drop down one of these and I'll show you a little bit more how it all works. So here we go. There are 3 Volvo Penta IPS engines. We've got one here, one in the middle, and one over there. Now the middle one is a little bit lower. That's just because the V of the hull means it drops down a little bit further. We've got twin Kohler generators here and here. Now the interesting thing about this boat, because it has those electric stabilizer fins, you don't actually need to run the generators when you're underway. You can just use, there's a separate set of batteries that runs them, so you don't have to run the generators. When you're at anchor, you probably do, just to provide enough power. Now, the standard power unit is IPS 1200s. This has got the larger optional 1350s. They're 1,000 horsepower each, and that should be good for a top speed of around about 30 knots. And we have twin fuel tanks of 7,000 litres. I don't think they've done the figures yet in terms of range and fuel consumption, but I'm guessing that that will be somewhere between 200 and 300 miles at planing speed, and obviously much more than that at displacement. Now, it's a Category B design. I believe it's for 16 people, and it is immensely solid build. If we look back there, you can see there are the tops of the pod drive units. So really good access to all of them. And of course, with all the hatches open, you then get plenty of headroom and fresh air in here too. Let's finish the tour of the Bluegame BGX83 in this fabulous four-deck lounge area. Now, Bluegames are a slightly divisive boat. They're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. You do sacrifice a certain amount of volume for the style, for those walk-around decks, for all that exterior space. But I have to say, I think this one really works. The bigger they are, the better they are. And this is as big as it gets. Now, of course, that does come with a fairly hefty price tag. Starts at about 5.9 million euros ex taxes. But then if you want to stand out from a crowd, this is a really good way of doing it. You have the looks, the style, the performance, the seakeeping of an adventure boat, but the finish, the volume, the cabin numbers of a proper luxury yacht. So do let me know what you make of it in the comments. I'd be really interested to see them.